Hello and welcome to the Alpha Demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software, and I'm pleased to be joined by Sarah Mitchell, our Director of Customer Success and Head of Documentation. Today we're going to be doing more Q&A, I believe, than actual demo. So now would be a great time to get those questions ready, and you can type those questions into the chat box or the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. So let's get started. Hello, Sarah. Are you there? Oh, I like those donuts. Very nice.
Did you? Yes. What?
Donuts. I know you said you were hungry just before the webinar, so
Yeah.
they look pretty good.
I haven't had
Yeah.
lunch yet. It's lunchtime. Yeah.
So
Thanks for being here.
Yep. So let's see if we have any questions. We'll give people a moment to write in. In the meantime, we can talk a little bit about our upcoming Devcon, which is going to be starting in just about, in fact, less than 2 weeks from now. So it's going to be very exciting. One of the new topics we're talking about this year is going to be with machine learning, which I think is going to be an interesting direction for Alpha. And basically the ability to take data and put it through algorithms to determine, help make decisions, help spot trends and things like that that were otherwise not possible to do. The next question is, when will the Devcon agenda be released? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Can I continue?
Yeah.
You're running away.
Well, I'm taking it away. I'm sorry, a little too much coffee today. Go for it. Sorry.
Yeah. So today is just a Q&A.
Oh, thank you for that edit there. Okay, that's fine.
And it's just a Q&A because Devcon. Oh no, I forgot I did that. Anyway, I was working on this last week. Today isn't Ask Me Anything, Ask Us Anything. Devcon's next week. I'm gonna go make that other slide slightly more professional real quick before I put it back on screen.
All right, that's fine.
I am, hungry.
Devcon schedule, we've been finalizing today, basically fixing the typos and all that other stuff. Oh, very nice. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I don't think it actually goes to the 22nd. I think it ends on the 21st.
On the 21st, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that's also been wrong for.
Yeah, so if you show up on Saturday, I don't know, you can ask us different kinds of questions.
There we go. You can come on Saturday, we won't be here. So yeah, sign up. We're getting ready to get ready for Devcon. So
nice.
But yeah, that's how we got our Ask Me Anything. I'm trying to have more fun with some of these slides. So, and I see there's lots of questions.
Questions are coming in. Yeah, that's terrific.
Yeah.
So machine learning using R. Actually, I think we're using Python. I happen to have a little bit of insight into what that session is. So it's going to be using Python libraries, and he's wanting to use stuff that runs on a PC but some of them are really Linux toolkits. I believe the technology he's going to be using is one called Sidekick, if I'm not mistaken.
So I actually don't really have any idea. I've seen lots of back and forth about it though.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent.
Yeah, but yeah, I did want to talk about one thing.
Let's do it.
Which tied into last week, and we were showing the Google OAuth and the named resource providers and getting that all set up. And when we did the test where we went to go log in and I selected my Alpha software account, I got an error about something about needing to be internal and it wasn't allowed. And the reason I got that is because I didn't create an OAuth consent screen, which you have to create if you're doing OAuth too. So that was a piece that was missing. I did post on the forum about that. Please make sure you do this. Read that error message when it pops up. It actually tells you didn't make an OAuth screen. So all you have to do is go and create one. This already has one in it. When you come in here and there isn't one, you can create one. And if you just pick internal, then that's really all you need to do there. But that will let you do things like log in with a corporate account if you have one. So that was that piece that was missing. So
Yeah.
Just wanted to let everyone know about that, and that also that all this credentials, in addition to making OAuth 2 clients here, this is also where you come to create Google service accounts, which are used with the Google storage connection strings, and
So
API
that's similar,
keys, which are
similar
used
to
with other
Amazon's
things.
S3 sort of thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Similar to what?
Amazon S3, the storage system from Amazon.
So Google Drive can be used as your storage service. You can upload files to Google Drive, and that is handled using a service account, which is a special email address that you create and grant access rights to. And I'm not worried about you guys seeing these emails here because there's a whole got to go download a JSON file that contains a bunch of key information that you have to include in the
So your screen seems to be paused at the moment. Anyway,
is it paused?
Yeah,
Are we sure?
Oh, now it's moving. All right.
No, I wasn't moving the mouse.
Oh, okay.
Is that I got really confused.
Okay, I was about to say I thought you thought you were showing
still
secret
that
information. Oh, good. Exactly.
Oh my goodness. I was up too late. 10 o'clock. Oh man. Anyway, yeah, so the service accounts, this is where you come in and create a service account for use with the Google Storage, which is one of the storage connection options. So there's other options like Amazon S3, the disk, which is the server itself, can only be used if you are hosting application server on-prem. Can't use that with Alpha Cloud for very good reasons. But also things like Wasabi and Azure storage, and let's go look at it.
Well, and the very good reason why you can't put it on Alpha Cloud is because Alpha Cloud always has multiple servers. So if you were to save it in one, it wouldn't necessarily.
Yeah, so if we go back into storage connection strings here, we make a new one. And I build one. There's Azure, Dropbox, whatever Eucalyptus is, Wasabi, SharePoint. SharePoint was a hot topic for a while.
Drop-in replacement for S3, I believe, is what Eucalyptus is about.
Yeah, it is.
Slightly
it's an
cheaper.
S3. Yeah, I think Eucalyptus is a similar one. They're S3 backed. If they're S3 based, then there are some. I think you can use it anywhere that Amazon S3 storage can be used to do stuff on the JavaScript side of things.
Right.
So, SharePoint. If you have a SharePoint thing that you want to work with, there is an entire SharePoint connection string Genie walkthrough thing. Use that to set this up.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me see here. No thanks. Let's close that. Want to launch a new instance here. Oh, hey, you know what? Let's show this while we're waiting for a few more questions. If you ever want to update your Alpha Anywhere, click the update. Make sure it closes out. All right, I agree. We got them all closed? I think so. All right, I agree. So this will download the latest nightly build, which I love using. Anyway, that's how you update. So we got questions? Do we have any more questions about Devcon?
No more Devcon questions other than when will the schedule be ready, and I hope that I will email that out tomorrow, but if not, it should go out, I would think, by Friday, so you'll have at least a week to take a look at everything and know which ones you want to make sure that you're especially present for. There is another question. This one has to do with grid control. And the question in the grid control, once we can launch this, has to do with being able to search for null dates and times in a grid in the search area. So I suspect what happens is if you don't put anything in, search, I suspect, might be disabled, but maybe there's a way of doing a search for nothing.
But when you say grid control, do you mean grid component or do you mean list control?
I'm sorry, I mean a grid, the search area of a grid, so a grid component.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Sometimes people call a list a grid because it can be a.
It is, yeah, exactly.
Display of data. Yeah, I just want to clarify that. So yeah, this is all done. Let's launch.
Right.
So I've been sort of like a spoilers, I've been testing a new version of the installer that's going to have a bunch of new cool things you can do in it, and I'm really excited about that.
What? Well, can you spoil us even more? No, okay.
Drag and drop to reorder so that I can go down here and
Oh, yeah,
guy
that's
to the
terrific.
top.
Especially, yeah. I mean, a lot of us have got multiple installations of Alpha Anywhere. We'll keep the nightly build along, running side by side with the production build and things like that. And
Yeah, and a few other cool new
runtime
things
and
going into it. I'm excited for it. It's going to be
all
a
right, cool.
nice little quality of life change there. So let's open up our testing workspace for Community Edition here, and let's go. Where are we at? We're in default. Why not? Let's make a new grid component. Web component, grid component. Okay. For those of you that aren't familiar with what a grid is, it is a tabular display of data. It is based on a data source, so you have to set up your connection. If you're in Community Edition, it can only be a SQL database. So let's go grab our Northwind tables here. So we'll connect it, and then you need to set up your grid to either pull data from a table or a view, from a custom SQL statement, or if you have it, a stored procedure. I don't have any, so we'll just stick with table. And we'll pick our favorite customers table.
Right. Yeah.
One of these days, I'm gonna be like, guys,
I'm going to use a different table. We're going to use a products table or something.
It's gonna, instead of customers, it's gonna be like users.
Yeah.
So we'll drop a bunch of things in here. That's how you add fields to it. And you need a search part, right?
Yeah, but we also need a date time column for this. So maybe this isn't the right one.
Oh, that's
yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we can mix it up.
Let's take all that out. Yes.
Yeah.
I want one set. Let's go back here. Let's select our second most favorite orders.
Orders will have a date time in it. Terrific.
I hope it's a date time.
Yeah.
So it does have a bunch of dates in it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's live preview that real quick. Yeah, let's turn on the server. Oh, what happened? One of my other apps took focus suddenly and canceled out of the live preview.
Oh, okay.
It happens. So that's a grid. There's our order ID, employee ID, the order date, the required date. It has date time. It doesn't. Those are probably null. So the question is, how do I search for a null date?
I only want to find the ones that are null. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let's go to the component type and say, yo, we need a search part.
Yep.
Okay, and we'll come down here to fields. And we saw there was a null on the ship date, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably double check to make sure there is a null on the ship date and it isn't just blank. So let's go to our database explorer.
Yep.
And orders, query builder. Close that because we don't need it anymore. And then let's go to our filter and say column expression. This arrow will let you pick a column over here. Ship date is null.
Okay.
Execute query. And we do have null data in there, so that's good.
Yep. 21 records.
That just validates our assertion that there is null data in this database.
Great.
So we'll have ship date. And the question is, how do you search for null data? So quite obviously, if it's blank, I do believe it interprets it as
you haven't put in any criteria, so don't bother searching, right?
Right. So let's do a search here.
Try
It's going to give us all the results. Yeah, so if we do search again, it's not going to really update this, is it? So, you know, what you really need to do is you need to look at your search style, and the search style is defined using this. It's strange. I think it's strange.
Oh, there are notes here at the bottom you can expand.
Yeah, so you click this open, and there's this whole block of text that's Let's go to documentation here. APIs and services. There we go. So grid search part. Search options. Oh, this is the wrong place. Grid searching. What is that called again? Search style. Look for search style. I did a write-up of this a while ago. Nope, that's not it. Well, I'll have to talk through it. Anyway, the write-up is nicer. We're looking at search style here. Okay, so basically you have these numbers. You have 0, which is use default setting, and that's specified in the search properties tab. So if it's set to 0, it's going to use what's defined over here in the properties. On search style here, which we open this up, that's search rules. Oh, nope, it's still just a single line. This is so wide. So the default is 2, and 2 means is contained in. But you have other options like exact match, starts with, and wildcard, which are fine. But those still aren't really going to get you what you need. What you need to do is you need to turn on QBE syntax, query by example, so you can do searching for null. And let's go look at that. QBE syntax will give you what you need. I might have called it QBF. Query by form, search syntax. Here we go. So the naming isn't, this should be query by example. Anyway, basically what this lets you do is it lets you use things like less than, not equal to, a range search using a ... And then these terms, is blank, is null, is not null. So that's how you can add in the ability to search for null in your grid. And this doesn't just apply to the grid, the list control has support for this as well. So if we want to turn that on, I do believe we have to do it in the properties here. So allow query by form syntax, that's on. So let's go up to live preview and see if that's going to work on our date field.
So can you literally type in is null?
Yeah. There you go, is null. So
Look at
if
that.
you've got it turned on, you can just use the phrase is null. There's also one is blank, which will return your null fields, but it will also give you blank fields. It's a little more liberal on what it'll give you. So if you've got like a string field that can have a blank value, but not a null value, or both, is blank will return those. And then of course you can do the opposite, is not blank. So if we go and sort our ship date, you'll notice that those blank fields aren't showing up at all, or those blank columns. So that's how you can add it. You are encouraged, if this is for, if you have your own users, where did it all go? I have got too many tabs open. You are encouraged to, if you want to share this with people using your app, just take all of this, adapt it to your needs. If you need to provide help for it. So that's how you can do that.
Great, excellent. Thanks very much.
And that query by form stuff applies to the list control as well.
Yeah. Here's a question, and I remember this back from the desktop days, but I haven't done it recently in like a web app. It has to do with a pivot table. In other words, how can you create a pivot table so that you have your basically it's kind of the opposite of the way you think. You have your fields going down as records, and then you have your records sort of as fields up at the top. In other words, you do a flip-flop of the
Is
two.
this in a list?
That is a good question. Let's start with a list since it isn't specified here.
How would you do that? Make a new UX component here to add a list. I'm just gonna preface this up front that I don't know how to pivot a table, so
Okay.
I don't know if I can make the list to do it. I would presume that it would be the layout itself. I'm gonna stick with sample data here because that always works faster. So you want a horizontal. You want the It's not simply just displaying the labels on the left-hand side with the columns of data being your records, is it? I think with a pivot table, you want to do
columns of the
something
records,
like,
yeah.
I think how do we do a pivot table? Is that the question here?
Oh, here's someone that actually someone pointed out that maybe the data could be coming in from a SQL view, which already has it in the proper order, and then the list handles it just the way the list normally handles data.
That is a good point. Yeah, if you pivot the data in your SQL query, then you can just drop it in.
Yep.
And the list will just work. That might be the best approach to go about doing it, because if you want to pivot it after the fact, you're going to have to write a ton of JavaScript or something to pre-process the data to get it into the format needed to render it.
Yep. And in fact, looks like pivot is one of those things that's supported by some SQL Server things. Yeah, I see. So yeah, so you would have to, this is one of these cases where you'd have to sort of dig into the SQL behind it and then have it handed back in that format into Alpha.
Yeah, another thing somebody else pointed out, a pivot table can have any number of columns, which might,
that's going to be an issue though, isn't it? Yeah.
This is dynamic. So then you might need to be looking at using XBasic to generate the list data. And there is a function you can look at. Set list columns and populate. This lets you set up what those columns are in advance and then populate the list. I'll put this in the chat. Also, just since we're here, I restructured the UX control methods section on the documentation last night and broke everything into subjects. So this is a little bit easier to deal with now. So if you're working with repeating sections, all the repeating section methods are contained now, separated from everything else. Just looking at these, that page was getting a bit wild and unruly. So we had already broken things up like IndexedDB into its own page, and we just finalized that last night.
Excellent.
So
thank you.
Peruse it. If you see something that doesn't make sense, general methods is just a place where we put a bunch of stuff like getting the parent object or calling submit on the UX. If you want to provide feedback about that not making sense or something, let me know. Trying my best to break this stuff up so it's easier to deal with.
And as a reminder, can you show people how to report on documentation that they find unclear or confusing? There it is.
Yeah, there's a
click the link.
Little link at the bottom.
Goes to a form.
It says report an issue with this page. It opens up your email client if you have one configured. If you don't, you might be prompted or it might do nothing. they have to send us an email, and that goes into our support team, and we take a look at it and try to address it as quickly as possible.
Excellent.
In fact, people that use that link to report issues get their issues addressed pretty fast.
Actually, I've noticed that as well, often the same day. So that's
Yeah.
it's a good way to go in if you're looking for help, because it helps us narrow down what you're trying to do anyway.
Yeah.
So
Well, and if it's like a problem with like a code example not working, we want to know that so that we can update it and make sure it's working, because we don't want to leave broken code examples out here. So.
Yep. No, sure don't. Thanks.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. So let's go in, if we could just go into Alpha Anywhere in Gen 1 into the Web Projects control panel, and maybe open up a project. Oh, this is perfect, actually. Let's say you were looking for a word or a phrase or a variable in one of these components, and you said, oh yeah, I forgot I've got a something, maybe it's a word that you've misspelled or something like that, and you want to find all of those instances. I don't think there's a tool directly in Alpha for doing it, but if I recall,
there is a tool.
Oh, there is, really, for finding everything?
Yeah, so if you right click on here, there's this search all files in this web project. So you could search for something like, maybe you wanted to know everything that used the customers table. So you could type out customers here and search, and it might, depending on the size of your project, might take a while.
Oh, look at that.
And what this will do, it will return like a tree control view of everything that matches, and then you can expand that and look at it's basically the XBasic, the underlying implementation of the components and stuff.
Okay,
you can look at that to see if that's what you're looking for. And then there's a copy results to clipboard, so you can copy that into this tool's been here forever. Copy that into like a WordPad or something.
Yeah.
And so this will tell you what matches, and it will give you line numbers. Sometimes of where that matches is in the component, which isn't actually particularly useful because you need to actually edit it in the UI, but it should give you enough of a hint to
know where in the UI
to know where to go look. Yeah.
Oh wow, you've got
7,000. Depending on the size of your project, this could take a while.
This project. So I was wondering why it was taking so long. All right, I got it.
There we go. So yeah, so we search for customers. Okay. So if we look at CSS
grid so it's got reports, it's got components.
This is SQL table name customers. So that's like, oh, it looks like I used customers table here, so I need to deal with this. There are other ways, other things you can search for, like the connection strings. It's literally searching the implementation of this component, which you can see by clicking on the XBasic tab. So it's searching through all of this text, which is
I know someone's going to ask this,
all of this stuff.
A lot of people do. They said, listen, I'm always in the settings tab. I'm never in the XBasic tab. What is the XBasic tab?
It's the XBasic that implements the component.
I see. So as you're in the settings tab and you're making selections and stuff like that, on the other side, on this other tab, this is all getting updated.
Yeah. And it's here for a variety of reasons. If you ever need to override a component property, so how do I show this? Let's just use this guy. Let's add a button. Add a control button.
The follow-up question was, does it also point to data sources? I mean, like
it's
if it's
everything
part of the connection
in the definition. So
the answer is yes. Yeah.
If you're asking about like named connection
it's not gonna look directly into the database, but it's gonna look at. But if you have a connection string defined, then that's got that.
Yeah, you can search for connection string names. Let's select that CSS. What was it called? CSS grid demo or something? Oh, let's pick a grid.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So if you have a grid or something, there's this thing called override settings. Some of them are flags, but there's also all of this stuff. And you could do something like override let's see, the client-side date format for the grid when it gets embedded, or maybe you don't want the primary key column. Let's scroll down a bit further here. There's no search in here. So you see stuff like with search info, search field info 1, field name. Maybe you don't want this thing to use a search style 0. Maybe you want to overwrite it with 1 or 3. You know, all these settings here.
Right.
Cancel, 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 close. No. Come back here, we'll go to XBasic. That is all of this stuff here without that temple dot in it. So all the settings in the grid can be overwritten. So that's part of the reason why this is here. Another reason is like a learning tool. If you ever want to generate UX and grid components from scratch, you can totally do that. And you can use these as a reference as to the definition you need to build up. And the other thing to note is that only in the case of the UX component, you can edit settings here. You better know what you'll be doing, because if you edit something and break it, it's not going to render. But you can edit something here and it will change it back here. That doesn't happen in the grid. So like, let's go find our open a grid text. Let's copy that, cancel. Let's go over to XBasic and search it.
Oh, so this is so you can make changes here that are actually affect the component, unlike with the grid where you're
so like there's that open. Now notice it showed up a few times, and that's because the component is pre-rendered, so all the CSS, HTML, and JavaScript required for rendering, so this display here, that's that definition, rendering open a grid. Actually, that might be what it shows up in the tree. So we display a grid. Okay, we change it here, and if we go back here, it recalculates it, and now it's set here.
Fascinating.
So be careful though when you're going back and forth. So because you can.
So almost always you're going to be on that settings tab. That XBasic.
Recommend staying on settings. Yeah. I mean, if you're trying to find something, sometimes it's nice to come in here and just be like, you know, where is that JavaScript implemented?
Someone just said the XBasic tab should come with a health warning. Yeah, probably should. All right.
I mean, just looking at it, you should be filled with fear about changing this, but that's what that is. So
yeah,
I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, and so someone said, well, when is that XBasic tab stuff saved? It's saved when you save the component. It's updated when you make the changes in the settings, or if you make the updates in the settings.
Yeah, if you change something here and you go back, it does a recomputation of all the stuff on the things in the UX, but it's not saved until you save it with the save button.
Yeah, very cool. Let's see what else we've got here for questions. We've got some ViewBox questions. What about ViewBox data entry? But I don't think you're ready to answer that one just yet. But there was another ViewBox one here. Hang on a moment. It's right here in this list.
Oh, somebody had asked this question here. Sometimes they get an error when the UX component is closed. How do you track that sort of error? You take a screenshot and send us a test case so we can track it down for you.
That's probably a good idea.
Unless you're talking about it within your app itself. I'm assuming you're closing the component in the IDE.
Okay. So here's the question. Can you go over the preferred way to use a view box with a list so that the view box is the detail view?
Yes, probably.
All right.
Let's see here. What do we got? Oh, I need to get some data. Let's get some data.
Okay.
Fields, list, layout, stuff. Okay. And then you want a view box as the view. I feel like this is a thing that we've done. So detail view. I don't believe the list supports the view box as a detail view natively. So let's turn on detail view.
Okay.
Let's see what we've got here. Field map. Oh, there is a view box. All right, so we can pick our view box. We can pick a view box name. Nothing should follow the root object or array. Very interesting.
Good advice.
That's very good advice. You know what? Let's go to the release, the current release.
It's the thing about using a nightly build. Yeah.
Yeah. Could also be caused by the fact that we edited the UX on the XBasic tab. Because that is rife with peril.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do a new project in Oct 5th. There we go. New
The
UX.
other thing, as someone pointed out, is that when you set up the view box, you can use the list as the data source.
You can use the list as a data source. However, it's going to display all of the records.
Okay.
And I do believe the question was, how do you use the detail view
As a detail view, right?
as the detail view?
That's the question.
That's arguments. We don't want arguments. We want a connection string. Let's make our favorite. Okay. Make a clean copy. That will definitely break something later, but that's a future me problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Customers, field list, all the fields. Detail view. Let's just put a few things in here for now. Click OK, that's fine. It's just telling me that I didn't set up the return value as something. View box. Okay, add that guy in, go back here. Detail view, field map, view box. Let's select view box 1. Okay. And I think that's all we need to do here. And then in the view box, let's see what we can do on the layout. Looks like we might need to set this up too. List fields. Oh, I need to pick a list name.
Mm-hmm.
That's its data source. Genie. Let's just select these 4. And let's see what happens.
Oh, you have it running again. Yep.
Better turn it off. Can't use it. It's a newer version than what I'm working with, so.
Mm-hmm.
Always use the same server version as your IDE or you will encounter errors. So set up as that connection. So if we go back here, if you full preview that again, you'll notice that the view box had all the data in it because its data source was the list.
Mm-hmm.
But if we click on these, now it's updating it. So there's obviously something that needs to be done on the render. So let's see here. I'm trying to think if there's anything here that we need to turn off. for that. Probably not. Exit without saving.
Oh, someone pointed out that you can also filter with arguments in the list control, which might have.
You can filter with arguments on the view box and on the list. I think what I want to do.
So you could have it set an argument on the.
Let's disable that for now. And see if that'll filter the view box automatically to one record for us. There we go. So that's how you can set that up. There's more stuff that needs to happen here on your view box. You need to style it and configure how you want those to show up. Right now it's just text inline because it doesn't have any classes or breaks or anything like that. So you can work with this view, the Genie, to build that out, or if you're comfortable with CSS and HTML and JavaScript and all that good stuff, you can go to the freeform editor.
Cool. So now can I ask you to do that again, but slowly? Because it would move really fast. Like if you set up the list, that like, how do we set
so on see to use a view box as the detail view for a list, you have to have the view box in your component already. If you don't have one, you need to add it first. But once you have that on the list, you enable has detail view, and then you can go to detail view and set the detail view type to view box. There's one of the three options here, and then the view box name is view box 1.
And then you select your view box. Okay.
And then you select your view box, and then all the rest of the editing happens in the view box for the layout.
Great. And then so then you click OK, and then you go into the view box. And what were the things that you set on the view box to make it work?
I set it up to say that its data source was from the list. And that was just so that I could get access to inserting the customer fields here through add item. If it's based on a data source like a list, it will let you pick from those fields that are in it.
Right.
Barring that, you're on your own for putting this stuff in. But if it is based on a list, you can still insert a field value from that. So that's just like a ease of use thing. The view box having all of the list data in it on first view when the list didn't have anything selected is something I would need to look at. I believe there's another thing that has to be set up for this configuration, but because I neglected to document it, I don't know what that is. So, but that's the gist of it. Let me see here. We'll pull this off to the side here. I think the view box is as a data source was added in recent history within the last 2 years.
Okay. As a display type, you mean, for detail? Yep.
The detail view, list control detail view from layout.
Excellent. So that did in fact answer the question.
Yeah. So if you want to, there is a video. If you want to watch it, I'll put it in the chat. In addition to the detail view, it looks like you can also use a freeform layout.
Excellent. Well, I think
or maybe freeform layout controls. Okay.
I think we've chunked through all of the questions today, believe it or not. Not too bad.
There's no more. There could be more. I'm sure people have more questions.
Well, actually, we do have this is the very important one that happened at the very beginning, which was,
okay,
what do ghosts have up their nose? So we'll let the audience decide.
I already know what the answer is. I don't have to look.
All right. So and the answer.
Huh?
And the answer?
Is it boogers?
It's boogers. It is. Yeah. Sorry, that was just. We wanted to get through all the questions, so we did. If you do have further questions of any nature, but hopefully just Alpha Anywhere, do send them into guides, GUIDES@alphasoftware.com.
You can also
Sarah,
post them on the forum.
And post them. No, that's a really good point. Let's post them on the forum. Before we break today, would you pop us over to the Alpha forum, show people where it is, how to sign up, how to search, things like that. Because we are trying to do a much better job of monitoring the forum. It's been around for a while, but we want to make sure.
Encourage community.
Yeah,
So this
exactly.
is forum.alphasoftware.com. I suspect everyone that's here has already been here before.
Probably.
Be there shortly, but you can come here and post your questions. I thoroughly encourage it. Because it's not just getting an answer from us, but there are a lot of knowledgeable people in our community who can help you out. And it also gives you an opportunity to give back if there's something that you want to share with
it is very
everyone.
helpful to go do a search and say, I've run into this issue, and you'll find 3 other people have as well, and they'll have
we do pop in and check and try to make sure people are getting answers. Pro tip, when you do sign in, so I'm going to log out here. I don't know. We haven't really been able to figure out what's causing it. But if you log in and you don't check remember me, you might get logged out immediately.
Oh.
And
okay.
I don't know what the issue is. We've heard reports from people. We know this is a problem. We haven't been able to figure out what's causing it because we've like quadruple checked our configuration left on every angle, and it looks correct. So check remember me. Just remember to do that, and you'll stay logged in even between browsers, browser sessions. Like I was logged in on another tab and another instance of Edge here, and you notice that when I opened this up, I was still logged in. So just remember to check remember me.
Gotcha.
And that should help you avoid that problem, because you run into it in the weirdest places, like when you go to click post after you've written up a 40 paragraph reply to somebody. You get some weird error. Like, I can't do this. So we're aware of the issue. We just have not been able to figure out what's causing it. So
gotcha.
But yeah.
Well, Sarah, thank you again. Thanks to everyone who attended, and we look forward to seeing you next week at our next Alpha Demo and Q&A webcast. Until then, of course, keep those questions coming in. So take care, and see you next week. Bye-bye.